Hey everyone, it's GameDev with Drew, and today we're going to make an enemy. This enemy is just going to be moved by animations, but in a further up video, we're going to be making an enemy using a character body 2D. But for now, we're just going to use animations because it's simple and it's going to be effective. So first, what we have to do is we're going to click plus, and we're going to click 2D scene. The reason why we want to click 2D scene is so that we can have global transformations within our children. So next, we're going to rename him, and let's call this animation enemy. The reason why I'm calling it animation enemy is because this is just going to be a stand-in enemy for what we're going to do in the future. Because the game I kind of want to make is going to be like a zombie survival, like vampire survivors game. It's going to be cool. Next, we're going to save this, go into scenes, right click, make a new folder called enemies, and we can just save it as animation enemy.scene. Next, we're going to add a child, and we're going to make a area 2D. And as a child of our area 2D, we're going to add a collision shape because we have no shape, so we're going to add a collision shape. And we're also going to add a enemy, and I'm just going to use the Wraith because the Wraith looks cool. And I'm not going to use any animations. You guys can use what we learned in the last video to use animations, but I'm just going to have a Wraith right here. I'm then going to size up the Wraith to 2.5 times because that's what we did for the last character. I'm going to reset his position to 0. And then finally, I'm going to add him as a child of Area 2D. And then we're going to add a shape, rectangle shape, and our rectangle shape will now encapsulate our Wraith. I'm then going to move the Wraith sprite underwards, and then I'm going to resize it to what it should be. Alright, now, what are we missing? An animation player. You guys remember that. So, we're just going to add a child node called an animation player. If you guys haven't, go check out the previous video on how to use an animation player. And then we're going to just add a new animation. We're going to call it movement because we're moving around. And I think moving back and forth should take about 2 seconds. Not too bad. Next, we want to move our area 2D. We do not want to move our animation enemy because we want to use global coordinates instead of local coordinates. Because if it was local, we would just move like up here back and forth, and that's not what we want. So we're going to click our area 2D, click transform, and then click our animation player. And then we're going to go back into area 2D, and we see that we have our keys. Next, our position, we're going to have our position be a key at 0, 0. At the midpoint, we're going to go to 200. This 200 seems like a pretty good one. I'm going to click the key again. And then we're going to see when we press this on autoplay, it'll move back and forth for us. Now, if we just set autoplay on load, Control save, go into our main scene, go into our scenes folder, in our enemies, drag out enemy scene, and we press play. He now moves back and forth. But when we collide with him, nothing happens. The game doesn't restart. So we want the game to restart. To make the game restart, we're going to go into our animation enemy, add a new script onto the root scene because we always add an animation on the root scene. We click plus. We don't want it to be inside of our scenes folder. We're going to make a new folder. Go up twice. Go into scripts. Make a new folder called enemies because we're going to have different code for different enemies. And open our animation enemy.gd. We will then create, and we're just going to have a very simple code. And this is going to be an introduction to what Godot calls signals. So the way that these two need to talk to each other, since they're completely independent scenes, they need to use something called signals. And if you guys have ever used Scratch before, They're called broadcasts in Scratch. It just allows two things to talk to one another. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to get our animation enemy to talk to our player and see if it works. So let's go into animation enemy, click area 2D, click node in the top right, and it's already on signals. And we're going to choose body entered for the sheer reason that our player is a character body 2D. So we're going to click body entered, double click it, click connect. Mine has this hint stuff again, but if you don't want that, you can just delete it, but I'm going to keep it for autocomplete. Next, we're going to press enter, and we're going to make an if statement. We can do if body.hasNode, and it's going to check if the body actually has a node called player. But we're going to do if body.is_in group, and we're going to call that group player. We're then going to pass, and I'm going to share to you what groups are. So I'm about to flashbang you guys again. Sorry about the flashbang. I'm going to teach you guys about groups. So we have a player right here, and our player hits enemy 1. So our player hits enemy 1, and enemy 1, and in our player's code, it's checking if our if its name is enemy 1. My handwriting's bad. But then if we walk over to enemy 2, we have to make another if statement in order to check if enemy is enemy 2. We're going to have to make a new if statement for every single enemy. So to counteract that, we have what's called groups. So what we can do is if something is in the group enemy, in this case, we're checking if it's in the group player, so we don't have to reuse code. So if our player is in the group player, and we could have tons of different players, so we don't want to see if it's knight or if it's wizard. Our players are just going to be, we just have tons of different players. We're not going to check every single time if the name is the same. We're checking if it's in the same group. And it's the same thing for enemies, what I'll do in a further video. I'm going to use groups again and show how that works. So we have different enemies like an orc or a, I don't know, goblin or a skeleton or a wraith in this situation. We don't have to make a new if statement every single time, checking if it's that, if it's that, if it's that. That's too tedious. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our player to a group called player. So we're going to Control S, go into player, stay inside node, and we'll see the word groups. Let's click groups, and under the word manage groups, we can just type in P player, and that's what I like to call my group. My groups always start with a capital letter. Your guys don't have to, but I'm doing that anyways because I need to, because it just looks good in my brain. Next, I'm going to press add, Control save, go into animation enemy, and also we'll see that it has like a little box with a circle next to it. That means it's inside a group. Go back into animation enemy, and now the body is in the player. Next we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this pass statement, and we're going to get _tree, and go to the right once and press dot, and we're going to reload the current scene. What this does, it'll go to our tree, which is our root of the scene, so we're going to main, and it's just going to reload the current scene. So whenever I collide with this guy, it's going to reload. And that's how you make a simple enemy without doing health or anything. That's how you make a simple enemy. I'll see you guys in a further video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.